Her name was Dorothy. In 1933, she had $11 in a coffee tin under the kitchen sink in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She had been living on $11 a week for 2 years. Her husband had lost his factory job at the start of the Depression. That coffee tin $11 never moved. Not when the children needed shoes, not when the roof leaked for 3 weeks in January, not when there was nothing left for groceries on a Thursday. Dorothy found another way every single time, because that $11 was not spending money. That $11 was the wall between her family and ruin. When the Depression ended, Dorothy's neighbor Agnes asked her how she had survived 2 years without touching her emergency money. Dorothy looked at her like the question made no sense. She said, "Because it was not mine to touch. It was the family's last defense. Her daughter still has the coffee tin. It sits on a shelf in a kitchen in Cleveland, Ohio. Empty now. But there." By the time Dorothy was 60, she had raised 3 children through the Depression, outlived a world war, and never once carried a balance on a credit card. Not because she was wealthy, because she had never owned one. The first consumer credit card, the Bank AmeriCard, was mailed unsolicited to 60,000 Americans in Fresno, California in September 1958. Dorothy never received one. She never applied for one. She never needed one. She had no buy now, pay later account. No store credit in 3 installments. No revolving balance carrying interest into the next month. No financial app telling her where her money went. No debt consolidation loan for debt she had never accumulated. No minimum payment she was negotiating with herself to pay someday. What Dorothy had were 10 money habits so ordinary she never thought to name them. Nobody on her street named them either, because everyone handled money that way. 10 habits, none of them require a financial advisor. None of them have a subscription fee. None of them come with a referral bonus. This video is about what those habits were, and how an entire industry was built to replace them. Then something changed. Not the women, not the human need to live within what you have. What changed is exactly what this video is about. Before number 10, subscribe. This is exactly what this channel is here to make. Number 10. Dorothy only spent money she already had. This is the oldest financial principle in human history, and the most thoroughly dismantled. In 1935, there was no mechanism for Dorothy to spend money she did not have. There was no credit card in her wallet, no overdraft protection on her account, no buy now, pay later option at the hardware store. If she had $1, she could spend $1. If she did not have $1, she waited until she did. The concept was structural, not moral. The system simply did not allow spending what did not exist. By 2025, total U.S. consumer debt had reached $18.57 trillion. The Diners Club card, the first modern charge card, launched in 1950. Before 1950, Dorothy's system was the only system. After 1950, it became a choice. Then in 1958, Bank of America mass-mailed 60,000 fully activated credit cards to residents of Fresno, California without their asking. The recipients did not apply for them. They simply arrived in the mail. America's relationship with debt changed that day. Most people stopped choosing Dorothy's way. Dorothy never stopped. Dorothy never had the product. Dorothy never had the problem either. Number 9. Dorothy kept 1 month of expenses in cash, always, not invested, not in a high-yield account, in cash, in the house, where she could see it and count it and know exactly what it was. If the month was hard, the cash showed her how hard. If the month was good, the cash showed her that too. There was no abstraction, no bar graph, just the money. Research published by the Federal Reserve found that nearly 40% of Americans in 2024 could not cover an unexpected $400 expense without borrowing. Dorothy could cover $400 in cash, in the house, on any given Tuesday. The personal finance app industry is now worth over $1 billion annually. All of it is selling Dorothy's coffee tin. Dorothy never had the product. Dorothy never had the problem either. Number 1 in this list is the money habit the financial industry has spent more money erasing than any other. A habit so simple it requires no account to open. Stay with me. Number 8. Dorothy repaired everything before she replaced anything. A torn seam was mended. A cracked pot was patched with wire. A pair of shoes with worn soles was resold at the cobbler on Fifth Avenue for 40 cents, not thrown away. Resold. The cobbler on Fifth Avenue knew Dorothy by name. He knew the shoe sizes of all 3 of her children. He had resold the same pair of shoes 4 times. This was not sentimentality. This was economics. In 1935, repair was not a lifestyle choice. It was the only option. The throwaway economy did not yet exist. The global fast fashion industry reached over $137 billion in 2023. The electronics replacement market, phones, appliances, devices replaced before they fail, reached over $300 billion. Neither of these industries existed when Dorothy was mending seams on a Wednesday evening. Dorothy never had the product. Dorothy never had the problem either. Number 7. Dorothy bought food, not convenience. In 1935, the distinction did not yet exist. There were no convenience foods, no frozen dinner section, no snack aisle. Dorothy bought flour, beans, potatoes, a small piece of meat, and whatever the garden produced. She did not buy time. She used it. The convenience food industry did not formally exist until the Swanson TV dinner launched in 1953. Before 1953, the premium you paid for not cooking did not exist as a category. By 2024, the global convenience food market had reached over $480 billion. Dorothy spent $0 of it, because the category had not yet been invented to spend it on. Dorothy never had the product. Dorothy never had the problem either. Number 6. Dorothy never bought anything twice when once would do. In Dorothy's house, one pot served every purpose a pot could serve. One good knife, one cast iron pan, one set of ceramic dishes. Not because she could not imagine owning more, because owning more required money she did not spend on things she did not need. The minimalism movement, books, courses, consultants, podcasts, documentaries about owning fewer things, is now worth over $2 billion globally. People are paying money to be told what Dorothy simply lived. Dorothy never had the product. Dorothy never had the problem either. We are almost at number 1. It is the one money habit the entire consumer credit industry was built to dismantle. Almost there. Number 5. Dorothy knew exactly what everything cost, every week, every item. She carried a small notebook in her apron pocket with the price of every regular purchase written in pencil. Flour, 9 cents per pound. Dried beans, 7 cents per pound. Milk, 12 cents per quart. Coal, $14 per ton. She knew when a price had risen by a penny. She walked the extra 3 blocks to the butcher on Carson Street because his soup bones were 2 cents cheaper than the butcher on her own block. She never paid a price without knowing what the price should be. The National Financial Educators Council estimated that financial illiteracy cost Americans over $352 billion in 2021 alone. Dorothy never paid a fee she did not understand. She never paid a price she had not compared. Dorothy never had the product. Dorothy never had the problem either. Number 4. Dorothy gave a fixed amount to her church every week before anything else. This is not a religious statement, this is a financial one. Dorothy gave 10% of whatever came in. In a week of $11, she gave $1.10. This practice, setting aside a portion of income before spending anything else, is what behavioral economists now call paying yourself first. Personal finance books teaching this concept have collectively generated hundreds of millions of dollars in sales. George Clason published The Richest Man in Babylon in 1926. The principle was ancient when he wrote it. Dorothy never bought the book. She lived the principle. Dorothy never had the product. Dorothy never had the problem either. Number 3. Dorothy never compared herself to her neighbors. In 1935, there was very little to compare. The Hendersons next door had the same two-bedroom house, the same coal stove, the same worn furniture. Nobody on Dorothy's block was buying a new car in 1935. Nobody was renovating their kitchen. Nobody was returning from a vacation Dorothy could not afford. The social comparison economy did not yet exist at scale. Today it does. Social media platforms generated over $250 billion in advertising revenue in 2024. A meaningful portion of that revenue is built on the human tendency to measure one's life against curated images of other people's spending. Dorothy never measured her life against anyone else's, because she could not see anyone else's. The only measure Dorothy used was a simple one. Did the family have what they needed this week? The answer, almost always, was yes. Dorothy never had the product. Dorothy never had the problem either. Number 2. Dorothy talked about money at the table, not in crisis, not in shame, as a fact of the household. The children knew what things cost. They knew the rent was $8 a month. They knew coal had to last the winter. They knew that a nickel spent on something unnecessary was a nickel that did not exist for something necessary. This was not deprivation, this was education. Research from the University of Cambridge found that children's money habits are largely formed by the age of 7. Dorothy's children were handling real money, counting coins, understanding prices, learning to wait, from the time they could reach the kitchen table. The financial literacy industry is now worth over $9 billion globally. Dorothy gave her children that education for free, at dinner, every Tuesday. Dorothy never had the product. Dorothy never had the problem either. Number 1. Dorothy never borrowed what she did not know exactly how she would repay. This is the one the financial industry cannot sell. Dorothy did not oppose borrowing on principle. When the roof leaked in January 1936, she borrowed $12 from her sister Margaret in Allentown. She wrote the amount in her notebook. She wrote the date. She wrote the date by which she would repay it. She repaid it on that date. The agreement was not a legal document. It was a word, her word. The Bank AmeriCard, the first true revolving credit card, launched in 1958 with one innovation that changed everything. Cardholders did not have to repay the full balance each month. They could carry it, with interest. That one innovation, the revolving balance, is the foundation of a $1.2 trillion credit card debt industry in America today. Dorothy never carried a balance, not because she was disciplined in the modern sense, because she never borrowed without knowing precisely how the debt would end. The debt had to have an end she could name before she incurred it. If she could not name the end, she did not begin. You cannot sell that principle. You can only live it. Dorothy never had the product. Dorothy never had the problem either. Dorothy passed away in 1979. She was 71 years old. Her daughter found the coffee tin on the kitchen shelf when she cleared the house, empty. But the habit was not empty. Her daughter still keeps a month of expenses in cash, not in a high-yield account, not in an app, in an envelope in the kitchen drawer. She calls it her Dorothy money. She has never had to use it for a crisis, but she has never not had it. She cannot fully explain why she keeps it there, only that her mother did it, and Dorothy's house never fell. The 10 habits Dorothy kept were not a financial system. They were not a wealth-building strategy. They were not optimized. They were just how a woman in Pittsburgh handled money on $11 a week in 1935. What changed between Dorothy's kitchen and yours was not what money requires to stay in your life. Those requirements have not changed since 1935. What changed was who got paid when those requirements were replaced with something they could lend you at interest. Pick one thing from this list. Come back in the comments in a week and tell me what it did. The next video is already waiting.